Well, if the fire gets bad, we're coming to Vegas.
You're doing the card in Vegas?
Yeah, we'll move it to Vegas if it gets too bad. But as of now, it's all a go. NBA's going to go this week. We're going to go.
Okay.
The Los Angeles County area in Southern California remains in peril due to raging wildfires in the Pacific Palisades and Eaton. While both fires are beginning to be contained, the danger the fires pose is still very high, and Dana White is pretty worried. On top of the fires potentially spreading more, poor air quality can also be a significant cause for concern. Many sporting events in Los Angeles have been postponed as a result of the fires, including Los Angeles Kings, Los Angeles Lakers, and Los Angeles Clippers games. Now, it appears that UFC 311 could be moved out of respect for the situation. The MMA event is set to take place at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California, on January 18th. Per a video provided by A. Dean Ross, Dana White is speaking about the Los Angeles wildfires. He states that UFC 311 would be moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, should the fire danger lead to that decision. Well, if the fire gets bad, we're coming to Vegas, we'll move it to Vegas if gets too bad. As of now, it's all a go. NBA is gonna go this week, we're gonna go, White stated. Despite UFC 311 being days away, anything can happen. White has provided the contingency plan should the event not be able to take place at the Intuit Dome. Moving the fight to Las Vegas makes a ton of sense, as most of the UFC events that take place happen in the city. Also, Vegas is only a few hours away from Los Angeles, so any fighters already out here preparing would not have to travel too far to ensure they can still make their respective fights. The wildfires in Southern California have been raging since January 7th. They began in the Pacific Palisades but quickly spread through the region due to heavy winds. Per the Watch Duty app, the Pacific Palisades fire has burned over 23,000 acres and is 11% contained. The Eaton fire is also over 14,000 acres burned, and 27% contained. Both fires raged on without any containment due to the winds in the area. However, those winds have died down a bit, allowing firefighters to contain both big fires with some success. There could be more winds on the way, which could lead to more events in Los Angeles being postponed. However, there has been no official announcement that UFC 311 has been affected. White is confident that the event will take place as planned, but it could be moved to Vegas at any moment. Meanwhile, one of the most highly anticipated matchups at the first UFC Fight Night of the year ended in an absolutely jaw-dropping knockout. The UFC's nearly month-long break came to an end when the promotion returned with UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern vs Amanda Ribas 2 at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. The event's prelims provided some incredible action and included notable finishes from Fatima Klein, Jacoby Smith, Marco Tulio, and Felipe Bunes, and the night's main card also got off to a hot start when Punahele Soriano upset Uros Medic with a 31-second knockout. Christian Rodriguez followed up Soriano's incredible highlight by upsetting the formerly undefeated Austin Bashi before Roman Kopylov and Chris Curtis went to war in a fight that ended in a controversial last-second finish, and things stayed in the middleweight division for the next fight between hard hitters Cesar Almeida and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. The Almeida vs Al Hassan matchup seemed destined to produce a knockout leading up to UFC Vegas 101, and after Judo Thunder initially tried to utilize his grappling early on, the 39-year-old got a bit too aggressive on the feet and ate a vicious counterpunch. Almeida refrained from jumping in to land any follow-up punches as his opponent fell back to the canvas. It took quite a while before Al Hassan regained consciousness and was helped to the stool by his corner and the cage-side medical personnel. The highlight reel knockout was Almeida's second finish since joining the UFC off of Dana White's Contender Series, and the former kickboxer now has back-to-back wins after suffering his first MMA loss in his second UFC appearance last June. On the flip side, the return of former UFC welterweight champion Leon Rocky Edwards is locked in, and the UK-based fighter is getting a home game. Multiple outlets reported that Edwards will face Jack Della Maddalena in his first fight since losing his title to Belal Muhammad in July. The fight will take place on March 9th and will headline UFC London at the O2 Arena. Edwards vs Maddalena will serve as the show's main event, and so far, UFC London is looking strong on paper. If you can remember, Edwards was on an impressive 13-fight unbeaten streak, which included back-to-back wins over Kamaru Usman and a satisfying victory over Colby Covington. However, when he rematched Muhammad, after their first fight ended in a no contest following an eye poke that left Muhammad unable to continue, Rocky was no match for his rival's mix of timely boxing and elite wrestling. But with that now in the past, Edwards will be looking to get back on the winning track against Maddalena. And speaking of streaks, Maddalena's current 17-fight win streak is one of the longest in the sport. Most recently, he scored an impressive third-round TKO win over Gilbert Burns in March 2024. When Edwards and Maddalena clash, the fight could be contested in a variety of ways. Both men have the skill set to put on an entertaining stand-up battle. However, Edwards' wrestling has improved, so he could elect to push for a grapple-heavy fight because that is considered Maddalena's weakness. We could also see a fight that features a mixture of the two styles. Over the years, the UFC has grown into a global powerhouse in mixed martial arts, generating billions of dollars annually and hosting some of the most iconic events in combat sports history. However, despite the organization's success, one issue remains a constant source of controversy: fighter pay. Many UFC athletes, including high-profile names, have voiced their frustrations over what they believe to be inadequate compensation for their efforts. Fighters put their bodies on the line, enduring grueling training camps and risking significant injuries inside the octagon, yet many claim their paychecks don't reflect these sacrifices. Entry-level fighters in the UFC typically earn around $12,000 to $14,000 to show and another $12,000 to $14,000 if they win. The take-home amount often dwindles to a fraction of the original paycheck when factoring in expenses like gym fees, coaching, travel, and medical costs. Comparisons to other professional sports further highlight the disparity, with athletes and organizations like the NFL or NBA earning significantly higher minimum salaries. These leagues distribute nearly 50% of their revenue as salaries and compensation, while for the UFC, this number stands at a meager 18%. Moreover, the decision to ban personal sponsors for fighters was met with criticism. Most people claim that the UFC's deal with Reebok for ring gear and merchandise was detrimental to the fighters' income. Or, to put it more bluntly, it forced them into a deadlock with the promotion with minimum opportunities for financial freedom. And this is perfectly highlighted by Josh Thompson in his recent revelation. A post shared by Reddit read, Josh Thompson reveals he made $86K versus Nate Diaz and $100K versus Bendo just from short sponsors. Last year proved to be an exceptional one for UFC CEO Dana White, with the organization raking in nearly $140 million in revenue from its PPV events alone. Fighters and promoters alike worked relentlessly to keep the promotion at the top of the MMA world. However, despite breaking records in revenue every year, White has come under fire for allegedly underpaying fighters. Naturally, the issue has once again gained traction with Thompson's financial disclosure. Fans have now prompted calls for the UFC CEO to take action and address the ongoing concerns. Payment clauses have long been a hot-button issue in combat sports promotions, and recent developments have reignited the debate. Following a high-profile antitrust lawsuit, UFC CEO Dana White and his organization were ordered to pay $375 million to over 1,000 fighters. Originally, the 1,200 plaintiffs sought a settlement in the billions, but after extensive negotiations, TKO Group, the UFC's parent company, reached an agreement to resolve the dispute. One fan reflected on the nature of success and perception in the case of the UFC, commenting, "Sometimes you live long enough to become the villain." Some fans expressed confusion over the UFC's payment model, suggesting higher wages would elevate the sport by attracting top-tier talent. One comment read, "I really don't get it. More money means better athletes will be drawn towards the sport." However, others believe financial control is a priority for the UFC, with one fan asserting, "But less control for the UFC and less money in their pockets, which is all they care about." The organization's approach was criticized as a strategy to maintain dependence among lower-ranked fighters. A fan remarked, "Sad reality is that the UFC wants fighters to be broken and completely reliant on them for money. They don't want low or unranked fighters making this kind of money." The ban on personal sponsorship deals also drew sharp criticism. "Not allowing sponsors is absurd and should be illegal," one user stated, calling for fighters to secure their financial independence. Another argued that the UFC has monopolized profits, observing, "The UFC knew this, saw the money in it, and took it all for themselves." These reactions underscore a common sentiment. The UFC appears more focused on maintaining control and maximizing profits than fostering growth or fairly distributing wealth to the fighters who fuel the sport's success. That said, what's your take on the UFC's fighter pay policies? Should the organization improve its compensation model, or are they striking the right balance? Let us know in the comment section below. And that's it from us today. Until next time, thank you for watching.